morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ellen Dye. I'm on the board of Virginia Beach IANS with Neil and Dick. And it's my pleasure this morning to introduce our speaker. I have the privilege and the honor of being a good friend of Yvonne's. And she is one of the most loving hearts and loving spirits that I know. She is truly my sister of the heart. And she gave a wonderful talk yesterday at IANS and got a standing ovation, which is unusual. So I know that you will enjoy what she says. She works in the IT world as a day job, but we all know her as the leader of the Raleigh IANS group, and she is a co-producer of a documentary about the after effects of near-death experiences called Back from the Light that you can find online. And she's the co-founder with me of a retreat called NDE R&R, which brings NDEers and experiencers of spiritually transformative experiences to Virginia Beach for a weekend every October to talk to each other about the experiences. So I know you will love her, and it's my honor to introduce Yvonne Sneeden.
Hi everyone. I'm so honored to be here with all of you. I feel like I'm with my brothers and sisters that are directly connected to God's light. So it's really an honor. I just want to thank your congregation for welcoming me. I want to thank also Neil and Fania for inviting me at IANS with Ellen Dye, of course, my amazing twin soul. And also thank everyone I know here that I've seen yesterday, Carol and her kind friend, and also Jeff at the back and Lord at the back as well. So these are my friends now. So I just want to thank everyone. There's something that really got my attention is actually in the bulletin it says death is the greatest human blessing, and I can guarantee it's true because I've been on that other side, and there's absolutely nothing to fear. It's going to be really, really, really wonderful. And so as you know, my name is Yvonne Sneeden. I'm actually from Europe. My first language is French. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina for 14 years and work in the IT world as an operations manager. And a total different world right now, but it's also an amazing world because it keeps me grounded. It's very technical, so when you've had a near-death experience and you've been on the other side, in the other world, in heaven, so you need that grounding balance actually to keep you here. So I know that a few of you here have heard my near-death experience, so I thank you so much for your patience, for listening to it again for the 10th time, and I'll be really happy to share it with anyone who hasn't heard yet this experience. So in 2008, I had a arrhythmia situation. I just moved to the US after many, many trials and tribulations. I started to develop arrhythmia, and I went to the cardiologist, and he said, you have to do something fun for you because this is arrhythmia. I had all the testing, and it confirmed that. So, but I was working really hard. I was a single mother in the US. And I was trying to make a bright future for my daughter. I had moved to the US, I didn't know anything. I was just divorcing from my American husband, and it was just after an abusive relationship, and it was just, I was alone with my daughter in the US, having to start all over again in a country from scratch. nothing. I knew nothing. It's like you're starting your identity all over again. You're rebuilding a new identity with the new information you have around. So I had really, I think that was the last straw in the numerous story. And I have my YouTube video. You can hear everything that happened to me in my life, the several traumas, but this was the last straw of everything, being in that country with my daughter to raise, and everything, working day and night to make a bright future to my daughter. Fortunately, I found a good job here, as in Europe I was in diplomacy and then in politics, so I was able to find a great job back here in the US as well, and but it was a rebuilding, and working so hard developed those arrhythmia in my heart. And the doctor said, just take it easy. Here are some medications. And whenever you have a crisis, just take that medication. It's going to slow down the heartbeat that's racing. And as I was explaining yesterday, I don't know what happened, but I don't know what I was thinking. But whenever I had whenever I didn't want to have a crisis, like a few hours of arrhythmia, I would take those medication. But normally you only take it when you have a crisis because it would slow down your heartbeat. So I had already a normal heartbeat when I didn't have those crises. But I took it because I was so fearful to have a crisis. And of course it slowed down my heart. And that's when I had that hard stop. So I had two near-death experiences, but I will tell the big one, what I call the big one this morning. So here I am in my living room, reading a book, and suddenly I feel all the organs of my body shutting down. But at the same time, I'm out of my body, I'm slipping out of my body, so I have no pain. Oftentimes when you have a huge impact and you're dying, oftentimes you don't feel the pain, you're out of your body instantly, and you see the body struggling. So one moment I was in my body, the next second I was delivered in a bountiful light. And that light was actually, for me, it was a peaceful and joyful light. It was the highest level of happiness that anyone could ever experience on this plane. We cannot, I mean, it was literally the highest, utmost peak of happiness anyone and joy. I was in that peaceful, joyful state, in that bounty light, and like Susan sang so well, I felt my spirit being lifted high by God's light, and I was held in this light, in this amazing, all-loving, but also all-living light, all-knowing, all-living. It was alive. It had a consciousness in itself. And here I was, that little spirit, inside, held in that eternal, all it is. And I was just content. And there was zero stressful feeling, zero negativity, worry-free, no fear, no disappointment, no hurt, nothing, no negative feeling. It was non-existent. I was just bathing and being totally absorbed by this all-loving light. And I was becoming, again, that soul of light I was before I came here. I felt that I was back from my journey, and that light would never judge me. That all the mistakes I did, or I felt I did, all the lessons, all the hurts that I did or I felt, anything was actually in that light, completely non-existent. I was understood, and all my mistakes and all my shortcomings were actually lovingly blessed by that light. And I was just there, feeling that I could stay there for eternity. When suddenly, coming from a distance, an even brighter being, brighter than the light, more brilliant than the light, a being comes towards me. And that being has actually, it's a translucent being. It has like arms and legs, but you cannot make the feature. It's like flames of fire, but instead it's light. And that being is so bright and is actually proceeding towards me with kindness, with goodness, with tenderness and joy. And it's kind of proceeding and hovering and actually kind of flying, hovering and whirling, all of that around me. And I'll get a drink. Thank you, excuse me. And as I was saying, that being is actually filled with joy, hovering, loving, and kind, and it's actually proceeding to me with care, and just suddenly come and embrace me, and wrap me inside itself, and I feel showered with that love of a dad and of a mother in one unit. I feel showered and I feel completely inundated by that tenderness and goodness and care. And it holds me in its arm and it says, I got you. I mean, it didn't say that, but that's how I felt, because in that heaven, it's not words, it's feeling and sensation and emotions and telepathically. And I felt that he was like the parents that would say, we got you. The ideal parents, the perfect ones, because not every parent is so wonderful. Mine, unfortunately, were not. Because I grew up on my own. Without them. But these ones, it was the perfect parents who was embracing me and saying, I got you. That's how I felt. You were in my arms. I got you. Nothing will happen. You are safe with me. And I felt the peace, an overwhelming peace. And I felt loved. I felt goodness. I felt kindness. I felt tenderness, I felt empathy, I felt joy and care, and I felt that I was the only being that ever existed and will ever exist in any universes and dimensions and anywhere. And yet, as I was explaining yesterday, we all are loved that way. Every individual living on this earth and beyond are loved and cherished that way. So here I am in his embrace, and I don't want to go. I feel that love, and suddenly I am downloaded. This is Jesus. People would say, there was no doubt, because when you are in heaven, there's never ever any doubt. Doubt is here. In this duality world where stress is, where we are doubting, we are fearful, we are hesitant, all those negative emotion and stressful emotion are non-existent in heaven. It's all peace, certainty, factual. We are all knowing. We get that all knowing from from God's light and knowing. We are immersed in that same dynamic. So I knew it was Jesus, and He was showering me with that love, and I was finally home. I was finally embraced in that true love of a father and a mother I never ever knew or experienced on earth. So eventually I had that feeling that I had to go back home on earth. You know things, it's all instant knowing. You're not just waiting for the person to answer. Even in your mind, it's instant knowing. You just know it goes to such a speed of thoughts. And so I started, I didn't want to come back here, and I said, I was in a Christian church, and I had a Christian boyfriend, and we were fighting all the time. And I asked Jesus, well, if I have to go back, what do I have to do with Steve? And it's not his real name, because I want to protect his identity. And so I said, what do I have to do with Steve? And I was explaining yesterday to the meeting that when you are in a church, oftentimes, in my type of church, you always are afraid not to walk in the will of God, and it creates an immense stress on you because you meet somebody. Is that the will of God? Is he the man God has sent me? And it's not, it is. And then you get into all that. So instead of enjoying the journey and removing all your fear and your stress and enjoying, and so I asked, what do I have to do with Steve? We argue all the time, and so Jesus at that moment, lifted itself up in the air, and from that translucent being he became a being of light, a little bit more solid looking, but still very glowing of light, and he opened up that big screen. And on that big screen, it was an even brighter screen, so we are in that atmosphere of light. And with all and you have to imagine that all that is happening in a feeling of happiness and joy and questioning. Everything is heightened. All your state of being is heightened to its highest. And so that huge screen comes up. And then it has a window like a yes and a no, like when you fill a survey. And and Jesus is there, and then he ticks the no. And then he says, with all the love for Steve and me at the same level, no judgment, but then he says, you have to say no. No to the relationship. You have to say no. So, you cannot imagine how, for somebody who's been in church for many years and believes that all it's the will of God, and you never know if it's surely 100% the will of God, Jesus telling you have to say no, it's a huge sigh of relief, And then I asked him, and I forgot to say that when I felt that love of a mother in one unit, it was both men and female energy in one. Whenever I was talking to Jesus, it was not male or female, it was both unit in one. It was that both energy were reconnected. It's almost like here, it's kind of divided for our experience that we have to have here. But over there, it was one unit. And I've never felt that before or after. And so I asked Jesus, but why is Steve always so mean with his word when he gets upset or frustrated with me? And Jesus said, factual, without judgment for Steve or for me, or he said, it's because Steve has decided to experience his life on earth, focusing primarily on his intellect and his mind. You have decided to focus your journey on earth primarily with your heart and your emotion, your heart. It wasn't that I was such a better person because I was focusing on the heart. It was just we were not compatible. If we were in an argument and he's frustrated and just blur out anger, I would not reciprocate because I didn't want to hurt him the way he was hurting me. So he needed somebody who could fight with him, and I needed somebody maybe more gentler and softer. So that's what he meant. So after that, suddenly, and I know you've heard a lot of near-death experiences here, but we always, it goes from one picture to another. You are in another scene constantly. It might be possible that we have experienced many other things, but just the memory we have here go from one scene to another. But I find myself suddenly in that scene where Jesus isn't by my side, and he's actually taking the shape of a more human, physical form, and we are proceeding out of that light. So for me, that light was almost like we were proceeding literally out, and there was that huge celestial city ahead of me, a crystal city. I don't know how you can call heavenly city. Those avenues were huge, and the buildings were extremely tall and so brilliant that it looked like it was crystal, gold crystal. And I was in a hurry to go home. I couldn't wait to be back in that place, and I was just racing with Jesus by my side, and I was racing. I was going to go home and no longer be in that. It was home. And to my left came some children angels. They came and rushed into Jesus' arms, and Jesus took them all in his arms. And after that, I saw Jesus told those little angels, "This is Yvonne's time, Yvonne's moment. Go back to your teacher, your mother, teacher." And so I turned around, and I saw the most magnificent, tall beings of light. They had long hair, they were filled with light inside. And they were loving me. They were looking at me with the same type of love that Jesus had for me. And they were emanating that love and that kindness and that inclusivity, that acceptance. And they were telling me, "We love you. We will never harm you. You are one of us. You'll always be one of us because you are home here. This is home for you." After that episode, I definitely didn't want to go back on earth because now I was back with my own family, with my own people. So I didn't want to go back home. And then eventually I said to Jesus, "I don't want to go back home. I want to stay here. This is my home. This is my place. This is where I belong. I am here to stay." And my body is all broken up down there. This world on earth is a mean world. It's a violent and mean world. Many people are selfish, self-centered. They could care less about anybody else around them. I was just being genuine and honest. It's not a judgment. It's just a feeling of reality on this plane. And I said, "This is home. I can relate to this world more than to the other one. This is home. I'm staying here. My body's broken." I was trying to negotiate the best I could to not go back. And there was no, I had to go. I mean, he looked at me and lifted again upper in the air and expanded half a mile high and looked like a whole hologram being. His whole being was pulsating life. and energy constantly. It was pulsating light and energy and life and strength and creativity. It was creating. As I was speaking, it was creating. And simultaneously, it was still creating worlds, universe, realities, all kind of things on earth. And at the same time was actually just looking at me and said, Yvonne, I will give you my strength. I will give you my energy of life. And when Jesus said that, I receive an instant feeling of a sparkling, effervescent, powerful, rejuvenating, sparkling liquid energy that filled my entire being until my ankles. And it stopped at my ankles. I'll never know why. I don't have the answer why. I've tried to find it for years and ask questions around me, but it never happened. And then at that time, Jesus said to me, after that feeling, Yvonne, I love my people. I love humanity. I love all creation. I love everyone. And this was not the Jesus of, condemning and making you feel guilty if you make a mistake. This was the all loving. It was pure love, pure higher level of love and kindness, telling me, Yvonne, I love every one of those beings. I love everyone. I love my babies. And when he said that, and I was thinking in my mind, you're Jesus. I mean, you came on earth to teach love, and it's kind of normal that you love everyone. And so he said to me, I'll show you how I love. I will show you how I love. And when he said that, he took my heart, my being, my essence, who Yvonne is, all together, and he blended it with his heart, his essence, his being, and we became one. Complete, perfect oneness. Just like Jesus said to God, Father, may they be one, like you and I are one. I experienced that oneness with Christ, with love itself, with pure love. In that oneness and one love, I felt the trillions of love and compassion for humanity, for creation, for nature, for all of us and beyond. I felt trillions of bursts of compassion and of gentleness and not beyond forgiveness, because forgiveness make you feel that you've done something wrong, and in that level there is no wrong. All the mistake that we think we do here, it's actually programmed in advance so that we can grow closer as a soul to the source of light and of love. In that light, love itself was telling me, you are love, there is no wrong with you. And when you come from a journey like Earth, when you separate it, I understood also, coming back from that experience of, I cannot share the moment of that oneness here in words, because it's 1,000 times more powerful and more complex than those very limiting words. But what I can say is that love, I understood some of it, and I took it back here. And that love actually blessed all your mistake, and because we are warrior, we came on this earth, we voluntarily accepted to be separated by source itself, by light itself, by creation, by all knowing, all loving, all it is. love is, by the source of creation that created all the galaxy, the dimension, the planets, we accepted to come voluntarily so that we could actually understand what actually God's love was.